Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Brina and today I'm going to be showing you how I did these brows. So if you're ready for this tutorial, keep on watching. As you can tell, I do my brows first, and the products that I use to do my brows are Pear's transparent soap and just any setting spray. I use the Grace and Stella setting spray, but you can really use whatever you have. Although I do want to say I've never tried a dewy setting spray for this, so I don't really feel like it would work as well just because it's meant to be dewy, you know, so do with that information what you will. Also, I use the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen in the shade Black, as well as the NYX Dip Shape Go. I don't necessarily prefer the Dip Shape Go, but when I went to go get the brow pomade, they were all out, so I settled for the Dip Shape Go. And then I also really like this brush specifically for setting my brows. You can also use a spoolie. It does work. But I have very coarse brow hair, so it does not like to set. It just, as you can see, they just fall down. So if I don't use this brush specifically, usually after an hour or so, the brow hairs have started to come loose. So that's why I use this brush. Obviously, if you don't have that problem, you can use a spoolie. It'll work just fine for you. Also, I occasionally use the NYX brow glue, but like I said, I have coarse brow hairs and I don't really feel like this works very well for me. So today we're just going to be sticking with the soap method. Shake up the setting spray and just give the soap a couple of spritzes of the setting spray. And then I go in with the brush into the soap, which is covered in hair because I have cats. And I typically try not to get a whole bunch of the setting spray. This is going to be really hard for me to show you. I just kind of work the brush around, picking up a little bit of setting spray, but quite a bit of soap. And then once my brush is good and loaded up with the soap, I'm going to go in and just kind of work it in to start. And then we brush the hairs up. And I do shape my own brows. So this is typically also the time where I would go in to clean up the bottom part of my brows, just because, like I said, my brow hairs tend to fall down. It makes it very hard for me to clean up my brows when they're not set in place. So I usually just wait until I start my makeup and clean them up at this point. But we're not going to do all that today. I just did it a couple of days ago. They should be pretty good. And if they're not, then it's fine. We just won't talk about it, right? To make sure they're definitely not going anywhere, I just go in with my finger and lightly press them into the skin. I find that also helps clean up the extra soap residue that I have going on up here. All right, now we're going to move on with the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen. And I'm going to clip my bangs out of the way, otherwise I'm going to be messing with them the whole time. One moment, please. Okay, that's better. So I take the Lift and Snatch brow pin and then I go under the brow with it. And as you can see, it's not perfectly straight, and that's exactly why I do my brows before anything else, so that way I can just go in and clean it up. And then we go in with a line over the top part of the brow. And I don't like to go all the way to where my brow hair stops. Now I'm going to shape out the other eye, and sometimes I do things like that. That's why I do my brows first. The concealer will cover it, it's fine. And then once I get that bottom line on there, I just want to make sure that they're as even as I can get them. So I'm just going to go back in and fix any places that need touching up, and then draw the line over top of the brows. And if you can't tell, it is very hard for me to talk while doing my brows, and that is definitely not even. I'm going to wipe it away. If you move quick enough with this stuff, you really can just wipe it off with your finger. And those are probably as even as I'm going to get them, so we're going to move on. Now, if you have the NYX Shape and Go, you can use the brush that comes with it. I don't really love it. It's very long, kind of fat, very flimsy when it's clean. It is not clean. So instead, I'm going to use my own brush. Whatever brush you have will work. And I'm just going to go in, scoop out a little bit of product, and then use that to completely fill in the whole last half of my brow. And then I also work it into that little section in front of it, fade it into it, so it doesn't look so harsh. This brow, as you can tell, is a little bit more sparse, so it does take a little bit more filling in. And then I just kind of try to make sure that everything looks even, fill in any places that I see that need to be filled, change the shape however it needs to be changed. And I think this is looking pretty good, so we're going to move on, going back in with that NYX Lift and Snatch brow pen to just draw hair-like strokes. I'm also going to take these strokes a little bit higher than that initial line that I drew, so that way they look a little bit more realistic. The key to this pen really is to not use a lot of pressure, because if you push too hard, it's gonna be a very fat stroke instead of a very thin stroke, and we're not going for the fat strokes. You're probably gonna get way too much product, and it'll just be hard to fix. So just use minimal pressure and hair-like strokes. That is definitely the key here, which I'm sure you already knew that, but you know. And then I also just go through the rest of the brow to kind of fill in a little bit and add some more hair strokes. Gives it a little bit more dimension, makes it look a little bit more natural. Although these are definitely not natural looking brows. If you came for a natural brow tutorial, you came to the wrong place. And a repeat on the other side. This side I don't have to fill in quite as much in the front. I don't know, my brows are super weird. Super uneven, super weird. And then sometimes I do get some brow hairs on the outer part here that start to come loose while I'm doing them, so I just kind of push them back into place and call it good. And then I'm just going to take this little tiny eyelid brush and some Tarte Shape Tape Concealer to make sure everything is super clean. I don't normally do this, but sometimes I do, so this is an option. If this is your first time doing brows and you get it everywhere and you're like, oh no, how do I clean this up? This is how you clean it up. Then I just go in, product on both sides of the brush, make sure it's nice and covered, and just trace around the brow. Wiggle the brush back and forth. It really helps to clean everything up. This is also a good way if your shape, you notice at the end, is not exactly matching. This is a good way to help make things look a little bit more even as well. And since we did do those hair strokes at the top, you're definitely not going to want to touch that part. Otherwise, you're just going to have to go back in and add more strokes, or you're just losing that little extra bit that you did to begin with, you know? So definitely go in and clean things up before going in with the lift and snatch brow pin if you have anything going on up there, just to make sure you don't mess anything up after the brows are nice and good. And that is it for my brow routine. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful or if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!